Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this panel discussion organised by the Dynamic Coalition for Data and Trust. My name's Alistair Gill. I'm a multi-platform journalist and editor. And I've been cooperating with EuroDIG for a couple of years now on various projects, so I'm pretty familiar with the central issues around internet governance and the DNS, or at least that's what I tell myself. Alongside me is Regina Fuchsova, who's Industry Relations Manager for EuroDIG. And we're broadcasting online live as well today, so a warm welcome also to all of those of you who are joining us from around Europe. You're with us in spirit. And if it was the cold Finnish weather putting you off coming here, well, apparently it's warmer today in Tampere than it is in Paris, Warsaw, and Istanbul. So
the temperature here in the room is low in degrees,
but it's pretty cold in here. Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah. Before I introduce the panelists, let me briefly put today's discussion in context and explain what we hope to cover over the next hour and a half. Essentially, the aim of today's event is to get an overview of the efforts currently being made by different DNS stakeholders to ensure a trustworthy and secure online environment. What measures are they taking? What motivates them besides their legislative obligations? Some registries and even registrars have introduced self-regulatory measures to increase the registration of data accuracy. So we'll be finding out about that as well. And we'll also be looking to the future. There's important new legislation on the way that's going to have an effect on the way registries and registrars work with data. We're also inviting representatives of law enforcement and cybersecurity organizations to share their viewpoint on the effectiveness and importance of these measures. They'll be giving us feedback on the current status of cooperation with registrars and registries and the role of data accuracy as a tool for law enforcement. Now, how is the panel going to work? We're going to be hearing from 6 panelists today, but unfortunately only one of them is able to join us in person. So it will be a hybrid format. Each panelist will have around 5 to 7 minutes to make a short presentation on the contribution they're making to improve DNS security and the challenges they currently face. After that, we'll open it up to the audience. So if you have any questions, you'll get the chance to ask the speakers after each presentation. Online viewers can also submit questions, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get the ball rolling. I'd like to begin by giving the floor to Marlene Straub. Marlene is Senior Policy Advisor from CENTER, the Council for European Top-Level Domain Registries, and she's going to give us an overview of current and planned EU legal regulations and obligations for data accuracy in domain name registrations, and also what obligations registrars and registries can expect in the future. Marlene, welcome to the panel, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Now that we've figured out that I can actually share my screen, I'm going to try and do that. Here we go. Be able to see this. Yeah. Wait. Wait, I might have to back out of this. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Marlena. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor at CENTER. And for those of you who don't know, CENTER is the European Association of Country Code Top-Level Domain Name Registries. And we provide a forum for registries to exchange information and to collaborate on well, matters that are relevant to them. 2 of our members are on the panel today, and Regina is also a member of EuroDIG, which is also a CENTER member. Yeah, and so I've been asked to prepare today a presentation on an overview of current and planned regulatory initiatives on registration data accuracy in the European Union. And just so that we're all starting from the same definition, we understand data accuracy as the measure of the likelihood that information about a registrant is correct. So you will be able to read much more about this definition in a paper on data accuracy that we published that exhaustively covers the different approaches our members take and what is considered, and the fact that many best practices exist across different members at CENTER. So There is a central piece of legislation that we think about when we think in terms of data accuracy, and that is the NIS2 directive. There are data accuracy requirements in the GDPR and other industry standards, but when we think about data accuracy, we think about NIS2. NIS2 is the directive on measures for a high common level of cybersecurity across the Union. And while NIS2 is full of interesting articles, the article we specifically think about in terms of data accuracy is Article 28 on the database of domain name registration data. I can, spoiler alert, preempt at this point that we don't know of any other regulation coming down the pipeline in terms of data accuracy. The central piece is going to remain Article 28 of NIS2 to the best of our knowledge. What is still missing, though, since it's a directive, are the national member state implementations of the obligations. So EU Law 101, a directive only prescribes outcomes, not the way of getting there. So even though we have this directive in EU law, the way that different member states might actually fill it with life might look different. So the NIS2 directive has been in force since January 2023. By October 2024, member states must adopt measures necessary for compliance to give guidance to their national organizations in scope. And we're currently awaiting these. So there's not much time left. There's a bit over a year, and I think registries and registrants are scrambling a bit. So NIS2 seeks to harmonize a minimum data set of registrant verification data that needs to be maintained as accurate, complete, and up to date, including by verification. These verification methods across members look quite different, and they all work quite well. So the diversity at Center, we would like to highlight that a diversity of approaches is desirable because it works, and that harmonization might not lead to the intended outcomes that regulators might expect. Also, to perform their essential functions, registries only have to collect a minimum amount of data. There is really not very much that is necessary to keep a registry up and running. And this data, if some of you attended the previous session on the DNS, Polina already spoke about this. This data is mostly provided to registries by registrars per contract. On the slide, you'll see that there's essentially 5 dimensions of data accuracy in Article 28 of the NIS2 directive. The first one is on collection and maintenance of data. The second one on verification. The third one on publication of verification procedures and non-personal data. Fourth is on legitimate access, and the fifth is on the avoidance of duplication of data collection. I've highlighted the ones that are, in my opinion, the most interesting and relevant. So this is first the one on collection and maintenance. So registries and entities providing domain name registration services must collect and maintain accurate and complete domain name registration data. And this includes things like name, email addresses, emails. If it's a company, you need this equivalent information for the person actually administering a domain. If this person is different from the person who's registered a domain. And then second, on verification, there's a requirement of policies and procedures, including verification procedures, to ensure that the databases are accurate and complete. So data accuracy is really made up of these 2 mechanisms: collection and maintenance, and second, verification. And then third, there's the element of duplicate data collection, which I think is quite interesting because it requires collaboration between registries and registrars, and the requirements set out in the other articles, the other provisions under Article 28 require that there's no duplication of collecting domain name registration data. So just to keep my part of this short, because I know that Jordi and Jaromir are going to be able to tell you much more from practice, which I think is more interesting because it actually fills these provisions with life already. The big issue is that we're currently in a situation of legal limbo, where we know what is in the NIS2 directive. We know that national implementations are supposed to follow. We don't really know what these national implementations are going to look like because member states still kind of tiptoeing around publishing specifics, which puts our members in a very difficult position because they're essentially implementing the abstract. Our members already take voluntary measures, which you'll be told about in a second. But it is unclear, for example, what the avoidance of duplicate collection of data is going to mean in practice between registries and registrars, and how different member states might implement this differently. So we might find a situation where we have a directive that's supposed to harmonize, but the national implementations are going to expect very different things from our members. We're also still waiting for the Commission to publish a guidance, which allegedly is what member states are waiting for. And we're waiting for an ENISA guidance on what best practices might look like from their perspective. Yeah, and so this was a TLDR of data accuracy requirements in EU law. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the panel.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Do we have any questions? No questions? Do we have any questions online?
No, it looks like there are no immediate reactions or questions.
How do you think, how can Centre help to facilitate more cooperation between stakeholders with Article 2 in the background?
So yeah, we
hanging over us.
I mean, quite literally. We try to provide a forum for our members and for our associate members and servers to come together and discuss. In terms of other stakeholders, the central stakeholders for us are registries, and we see that our members are increasingly collaborating with their registrants at national level, and this might take different forms. We're obviously willing to support these processes, but we try to follow where our members want to go. So if there's a strong member interest in enhancing dialogue with other stakeholders, we'll try to facilitate that. But right now we see that there's already an exchange of practices and discussion among our members just in terms of what they can do. But without national guidance or commission guidance or ENISA guidance, it's quite difficult to know where to go.
Yeah, so, and especially with all this uncertainty about how harmonization and implementation is actually going to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Marlene. We now have two guest panelists representing registries. The first is Jordi Iparaguirre, I hope I've got the pronunciation right there, who is Innovation Manager at EuroDIG, who's joining us online today from Belgium. And Jordi is going to talk about the measures EuroDIG is taking to prevent abuse and ensure data accuracy in the .eu TLD, and the challenges EuroDIG faces in achieving these goals. Jordi, thanks for being with us today. The virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Esther. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, I'm going to very briefly cover a little bit what do we do at EuroDIG to take care about that situation and try to help as much as possible on it. So basically, okay. So why are we as EuroDIG involved in all that? Well, first of all, just to mention that not all CCTLDs are equal. Okay, we are all based and ruled by the different realities, being that the laws, the bylaws of the own organization, the market, the prices, the local environment, whatever, but also the willingness of each one of the registries to do that, to walk that extra mile as we want to do. And in our case, we do. In particular, .eu is cheap because we have to work at cost because of the contract with the Commission on that. And well, in addition, .eu is also trusted and it's attractive. Okay, so that combination of factors is really attractive for abusers because you get more domains, interesting domain names, and attractive domain names for the same price. So if you're going to misuse them, that's very good. So that's why to keep that trust, we really take care of that and have different actions there. Then how is that we can look into the registration data and all that? Well, basically because the legal requirements, the agreement between the registry on our side and the registrant, whoever is going to register a domain name, right? So we have the right to verify the registration data at any time. It has to be your data, not someone else. You have to have a functional email and all that. So that is the background, the legal background that allows us to start and do those checkings there. Then which ones do we verify? I mean, with millions of domains, are we going to check them all? Yeah, we could do that, but we try to do the 80-20 thing. So basically, of course, because of that contract, the domains that have inconsistent or nonsense registration data. These are the first ones. Then the domains that are not eligible. Not all CCTLDs allow registrants from all the countries around the world. In particular, for the .eu, you have to be a resident, a company or a natural person in the extended European Economic Area, or being a European citizen living abroad. So we have to check that too. Something else that we also check are those exchange domains that, for instance, PayPal verify or whatever. I mean, if you are not PayPal, why are you going to register that? I mean, which is the purpose of that? So, well, if you are a domainer, that's great. We would like to know about you, and that's fine. Otherwise, well, try to identify yourself too. We also check into the content of domain names, and if we detect something that, from our viewpoint, we think that could be a counterfeit or pharma abuse or whatever, we will also start some checks there. And also randomly, we randomly check some domain names just, well, because we have the right to do it and because it's very interesting to look how it goes and to discover new patterns. So if a registrant is required to verify, to validate its registrant data, well, there are different ways there. It can do it on its own, right? So just going to that site, it's receiving an email, everything is explained, and then they just have to go to that site and they can use different methodologies to validate the data, being that ADAS, receiving an SMS or a micropayment or using the credit card. Beside that, because sometimes it's not possible or the registrant prefers not to do it, we also accept digital copies of utility bills or ID cards. Of course, those documents, once verified, are destroyed. And well, we also know that there is a hole there. I mean, there are sites on the internet that allow you to create those documents ex professo, so you have those copies. We may be fooled, but well, that's a legacy that came from the past, and we're still keeping that. In any case, if the registrant cannot validate the identity or if we get silence, that domain is going to be suspended. Otherwise, the domain, of course, is going to continue active. Then, beside that, what do we do? Sharing is caring. So as we are not cybersecurity experts, I mentioned before, okay, a website that we think that perhaps could be selling counterfeit products, it's just our opinion, okay? So we may start the validation, but what we're going to do is to share that kind of information, in that case, only the domain name. We do not share personal identifiable information. Among other things, well, GDPR is playing a role there, even if we could, but at the end of the day, most of that data is usually nonsense, fake, or useless. So there is no point on overloading with useless information. So we share that information, depending on the case, with different partners. Here we have just listing 5, but well, we have others, like the Cybersecurity Center in Belgium, Europol, different departments of Europol, Global Cyber Alliance, Global Anti-Scam Alliance, the International Anti-Counterfeiting, and so on. So if we just send the domain name, they will explore that, and if they think that this is a crime, an abuse, or whatever, they know the ways, the processes to follow to come back to us and ask for the domain suspension or start an investigation or so. So finalizing, that's the process as it is nowadays. The challenges. Well, the challenges in terms of data are some registrars and some big registrars do not really check the data they are collecting and sending us to the registry. And from time to time, not very often, but from time to time, we do receive nonsense data for registrations that should never arrive to us. But well, we detect them and then we start the validation processes. The same with certain proxies. Certain proxies can be useful for certain purposes, but some of them also have a kind of, not looking at all at the data they receive. Another one that Marlene has just mentioned is the law, the European Union laws, in that case, the NIS2 and also the Artificial Intelligence Act. Artificial Intelligence Act, because we are using machine learning tools to look and to investigate about possible abusive registrations. And then something that we would also like to have is some better feedback from cyber security experts and law enforcement authorities, so to close the loop and understand if what we are really sending them as alleged abuse is really alleged abuse or is not nonsense. So in order to balance and to be more proactive and sending more valid domains leads instead of sometimes noise. We do not know it sometimes. So that's all on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jordi. Do we have any questions for Jordi from the audience?
Maybe one. What you told registrars don't always check. What do you do with registrars that don't check?
It's difficult because we can, I mean, if we are the only ones that are suspending them to access us, I mean, they maybe or not be on the breach of the contract, we have to talk to them. I mean, we have people, we have a team of responsibles on the company that's to the account management, and we try to convince them, and well, oh, sorry, it's an error, we do not have that, but that is not too much. I mean, we have to inform them, we inform them, but we do not have alone the force to really get them into that, let's say, effort of developing new tools to check addresses and data. It's most of them think it's not their responsibility either. So that's where we are.
Thanks very much, Jordi.
Thank you.
Our second participant from a registry is, let's see how good my Czech pronunciation is, Jaromír Talíř. And Jaromír represents cz.nik, which is the Czech National Domain Registry. And he's going to share how they verify registration data, as well as some of the initiatives cz.nik has introduced above and beyond their legal obligations, not only to comply with legislation, but also to offer other services. Welcome to the panel, Jaromír.
Hello, Alistair. Hello from the Czech Republic. We have also quite nice weather here. We'll try not to repeat everything that Jordi said. In my presentation, I will try to focus more on the usage of the digital identity as the tool that we think that it's quite useful in, particularly in this use case. Just briefly going through the history, I think that we are doing some kind of registrant verification since the organization started to manage .cz for many years ago. In 2006, we have migrated to the new registry system called FRED, which is open source and used by about 10 other registries. So the things that we develop, particularly with regards to the registrant verification, are always usable for more registries than just for us. So we have to take this into the account. With regards to the registrant verification, I would like to emphasize that there are actually two aspects of this goal. Of course, the one that we talked about, it's definitely a tool that we can use to fight with the cybercrime. When we have the verified registrant, we will definitely prevent some specific use cases that they use for doing some bad things, but also that when we will have the verified registrants, we can actually provide him some specific services, because there are some services that registry is providing directly. For example, the registry log, which is the feature how to also prevent your domain from some possibilities of when let's say the registrar got hacked or these things. So, and if you want to establish the communication channel with the registrant, you need to know your customer, how the bank is saying that. So you need to verify the identity of the registrant. And over many years, this was mostly the manual procedures. When the registrants want to verify themselves that to prove their identity, they had to go to the, for example, notary, where he has to show the ID card, and we have got a confirmation that he is who he declares he is. Similar when we ask him to verify himself because of the suspicion that this is the fake registration. So this has a little bit changed in 2010. Then we saw that there is a interesting alignment with the digital identity efforts and the registry, and we allowed possibility to for domain registrants to verify their contacts and transform them into the digital identity, which means that if the user verify themselves and they link the account with some credentials, ideally with even some multi-factor authentication, they will possess the digital identity they can use by many services on the Czech internet, and not just for us. The good thing is that since last year, this digital identity, or not since last year, since like 2 years already, is recognized by the government. But since the last year, it's also recognized cross-border. So Moje ID users can use the same digital identity, not just for the registry operations, but also to the access to Czech government services and to the access all the public services in the Europe, in the EIDAS ecosystem. So with the Moje ID, we actually solved the problem how to identify returning customer or the registrant. So we were able to provide him sort of self-service portal where he can go and directly, without any manual intervention, provide the services like registry log that I talked about earlier, and some other features we provide to him. DNS traffic overview on top of his domain, doing some cleanup, merging the contacts, similar contacts they have in the registry, so he can easily manage the domains. And we are also planning some new features like the auctions. That will be the new service that we will provide to the registrants. And of course, this will be available after the verification, after obtaining the digital identity through this portal. So with this, we have solved the case of the Czech citizens, but we don't have only the Czech citizens as the domain owners. So we were thinking how to go cross-border, and luckily we took advantage of the EIDAS regulation that provides the mutual recognition of EIDs of all European countries. And we launched a project called Rege ID together with Denmark, Netherlands, Estonia a couple of years ago. Together we want to explore the possibilities how to use EIDAS in the registry ecosystem. And I forgot to mention also the center had played a role in this project by mostly dissemination of our work in the center space to talk about what we are doing. So we got many experiences with this project. There are some things that are hard to do cross-border using the EIDAS. I would mention that there's like mandatory attributes that are transferred cross-border are sometimes not enough to properly identify contacts, and the cross-border digital identity based on the EIDAS is now mostly focusing on natural persons, quite omitting the legal persons, but still in our registry, for example, it's just half of the registrants are natural persons, the other half is a legal person. So this is something that we have to address in some further steps. And on the last slide, I would like to mention that the EIDAS is going through the significant reform. And this should ideally bring something called the digital identity wallet, which should address some of these things that were lacking in the previous EIDAS. And CZNIC is participating in the large-scale pilots. It's the initiative co-funded by European Commission, where they expect that various organizations from various domains will pilot using this digital identity wallet. And CZNIX will play two roles in this pilot. One, of course, is MoID. You would like to play a role of PID, as like personal identity data issuer, where it should be possible to instantiate new wallet from the MoID. But for this pilot, well, for this session, it's most interesting the second role, that we would like to be the verifier or the relying party and use the digital identity wallet for the registrant verification. So this is the work that's ahead us, that I hope that in some other occasions I will report some what we achieved and whether we are successful or not. So that's all for myself. Thank you. And if you have some questions, I can answer them.
Thank you very much, Jaromir. Do we have any questions for Jaromir? We do have a question.
Hi, Georgia Osborne, DNS Research Federation. I just had a question for you just about digital identities. I think, so you spoke a lot about them, and obviously, you know, there's different kind of areas that they're really good for. One of the things that I would say is that there's not much in terms of risk of digital identities. And what would you say in regards to issues around age verification using digital identities, and the kind of areas using them for the private sector as well?
I'm not sure I understand completely. The sound is not not the best, but the question was about age verifications using digital identity, if I understand correctly. Definitely, this is one of the examples where some other organizations seeks a good example of using the digital identity for the age verification. For us, we don't have it as a specific use case that are in our focus at the moment, but certainly that's something that can be explored as well. And with the age verification, there is mostly discussed the things that is linked with the privacy, whether, for example, how to make it to reveal that the age is above some 18 or 21 without revealing the actual date. So there, I know that there's quite technical challenges with this aspect, but this is something that we have not touched yet at all. And if I understood correctly, there was a second question about the access of private sector. Was it correctly understood that? Because if I understood that it's true that digital identity is the thing currently mostly accessible by the public sector organizations. And I didn't mention it, but for the new digital identity wallet, there is also specific focus on to make it accessible for private sector as well. And there are even some requirements that big platforms, for example, and the banks and some interesting players should use it mandatory, the digital identity wallet. So I think there will be a big focus to make it available also to private sector, because it's true that for the current EIDAS, it's quite limited, and especially in the domain sector where, for example, registrants, they are mostly private organizations. They don't have easy access to the digital identity made by EIDAS. So I hope this will change. I'm not sure if I got the questions well, but
thank you very much, Jaromir. We have another question for you, actually, from Marlene.
I think it's a counterpart to the question that was just asked, which is, I mean, on the one hand, private sector gets to use the EIDAS scheme, but is there any sort of initiative to give a sort of private sector EID to companies? Because the way you described it, you're still going to have to manually verify 50% of the companies registering. Yeah, I'd be interested if there's any sort of thought that's been given to identifying companies by the same sort of ID.
yeah, this is currently, the private companies and their IDs, this is also something that I think only 2 countries provide the possibilities to identify organizations. So and these are sort of like the governmental IDs, I think Austria and Netherlands, and this is like linked to the some organization registries or business registries where they can be used this way. For now, this is the not easy task, and I think that even in the new wallet, it's something that needs a lot of exploration how to make it possible. I don't have the answer if this will work or not, so maybe let's get back to this in a year. Maybe I will have better answer.
Super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaromir. Let's now turn to registrars. We're joined from Sweden by Daniel Överfjord from Lupia. And Daniel's going to speak about the Swedish electronic identification system, Bank ID, and how it makes life easier for the registrar when it comes to registrations. And I believe he also has a demo he's going to show us. Thanks for joining us today, Daniel.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a short demo, and I'm going to talk about Bank ID and how we implement and try to have as clean customer data as possible here at Lupia. And I'm going to start my presentation here for you. 2 seconds. Let me see. Yes, I'm going to share it this way. So yeah, the clean customer data and how and why we do it with Lupia. And Lupia is Sweden's biggest registrar of the .se domain. And we have a lot of people, companies trying to register domains all the time with us. And we really put an effort in making sure that the customer data is as clean as possible. And why, I will just show you. And what we have on the Swedish market is that we're very used to the internet in Sweden. We are wanting a really fast checkout. We don't want to do too much hustling in order forms and stuff. So when you order something in Sweden, it needs to be a fast order registration. But a domain name is not like ordering a swimsuit or running shoes. I mean, we need to have a little bit more data from the registrant. And so we have to solve the issue with having a fast order and still get the correct data. And why do we want the correct customer data? It helps us quite a lot with support. I mean, with invoicing, when we renew the domain, if we have the correct data, we can send out the invoice to the correct person. And we also do checks, like if we get an invoice bounce from email, we do a check to a company called Credit Safe here in Sweden and update the postal address of the company. And then we send it through regular mail in order to make sure that they get invoice or the information we really need to send them. So that helps a lot. And also when it comes to companies, it might be that a company's registered domain a long time ago and then they just forget like what data did we give you. So we try to make sure that we have it updated and say, yeah, you gave us this data, but we have actually updated it for you since you have moved or since you have switched your company name or something. And we also use a company called Credit Safe for that. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about it. And then we need to prevent fraud orders. Now summer season is coming here, and now we see a lot of attempts to do fraud orders on domain names that looks like a company. For example, if you take Bauhaus, which is a big construction company in Europe, we see people trying to register like bauhausinvoicing.se. And that's because they want to send out invoices to all the construction companies in Sweden during the summer in order to, they know that there's probably some person, not the regular person sitting and doing the invoicing or stuff in July. So we see that kind of fraud now, for example, and we want to prevent those kind of things all the time. And now we also want to introduce Bank ID in our order form. And that's an incitament from the Swedish IAS that they now have said that if you can verify your customer with EID, preferably Bank ID, we will also give you a kickback of around €2 per domain registered, which is a big driver for us to do it, but also in order to get even better customer data. And what it looks like today is that we get around 200 plus .se.new domains per day. The .new domains is also handled by the IAS in Sweden. That's around. And we have an automated order handling where we try to not do that much manual work with each order because we don't have time for it. But we have over the years learned a lot about the fraud orders, about the common mistakes that they do, and try to implement different kinds of filtering. It can be IP addresses, it can be email providers. We know that they are using some email providers, the fraud orders usually. It can be, as mentioned before, the risky domains, like if they have eBay in it, for example. So if we see that they have eBay in it, it will halt for a manual check, and we will just check and see, okay, this is another fraud order, let's remove it. So we have learned over the years a lot and have all trained our filter to make sure that we stop them from manual handling as much as possible. And the ones that look completely correct are automatically handled and into the system. And I would say that it's mostly human errors rather than fraud that goes into this manual handling. And it's usually that you are trying to put in like a company name that doesn't exist, or you just make up a company name because you want your next company to be named like that. So then we stop and we tell them, no, you have to register this domain on you as a private person. So it's more human errors than fraud. And here's where bank ID verification is going to come in and revolutionize, hopefully, this even a bit more. And I don't know if you know about bank ID, but bank ID is the Swedish e-ID that is used by 97% of the internet users in Sweden have bank ID. And around, I think it's 91% of the Swedish population is using internet. Out of them, 97% are using bank ID. And you can use bank ID on every governmental site. You can use it on your bank. You can use it to log in here at Lupia, for example. And what bank ID is that you scan with your phone, or you have a little hardware connected to your computer if you don't have a phone. And you give us your personal number, and then you verify with bank ID that you are the person behind this personal number, and then you can log in. And bank ID is for private persons only, so it's not a company thing, but we can still use it a little bit for companies, and I'm going to show you a little bit on how we do it. So I'm going to switch screen here. Did that work? Did you see the new screen here?
That worked.
Perfect. So this is the order form that's coming for. Lupia has 5 brands in Sweden, and one of them is web support, which is also common, I think, in the Czech Republic and in the Slovak. So this is the first company that's going to use the bank ID verification in the order process. And what happens is that you want to order a new domain name, you want to create a new account, and you get to select, are you a private person or a company? So let's say I'm a private person. So here, right now, we give them an option to use bank ID. It's not mandatory, but I would say that every person from Sweden will use it because it's so simple. So you continue here and scan this QR code with your phone, and that will verify with bank ID. And what we do now is that we have the personal number from the user, and he's verified with bank ID. So then we can, from CreditSafe, get the rest of the data, the address we can get the city, the postal code, the country. What we cannot get is the email address because CreditSafe doesn't have that in the database, and the phone. So we will tell them to enter a username, an email address, and a phone number. That's it. The rest we have. They can switch the address if they want, but we don't recommend them. And also that they will use bank ID for future logins, which will give them a 2-factor authentication instantly. So they need 2-factor to log into the domain account. And that's it. Create a new account. And that's about it. Let me see if I missed something here. No, I filled in everything. Yeah, create new account. Yeah, sorry, that went the demo. And the other way to do it is to be a company, which means that you enter corporate ID number. So when you do that, we can get the information directly from CreditSafe database that this is a company. And the IIS doesn't require, they require a contact person for the company to verify with bank ID, which means that when I continue here, you need to add a contact person to this order for the domain name. So same thing goes here. I scan. So let's say I'm a representative of Lupia, so I will scan and I will be the contact person of Lupia now. So I will verify, And here I get the name again. This is Argonis, my UX toolsmith, so his name is on here. And here we get the username and the email address, that's it. And we have the company information here. In this way, we will directly identify if they try to register a company that doesn't exist, which is the most common thing. And we will also get the contact person verified with Bank ID. And everyone is probably thinking now, yeah, but can't anyone then register for a company? Yes, they can. It's not mandatory that we look up if this is a signee of the company, but you will verify with Bank ID. So we will have the personal number and name of the person using Bank ID. So if you're going to do fraud, it's not a very good idea to give us that information. So this is how we will solve it here in Sweden with the Bank ID and the verification. And this will give us really clean data. We will get the correct name, the address, and the personal number or organization number, so it's all connected, and then we send it to the registry of the domains or the information they require, which is usually .se that will require the personal number or organization number and the name of the registrant. So that's how we're going to solve it here in Sweden with Bank ID. And yeah, that's what I had.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Do we have any questions about the use of Bank ID? We have one question here.
What do you have if you have a customer from outside of Sweden?
I was going to ask the question.
Yeah, right now, since it's not mandatory to use Bank ID, they will just register the old-fashioned way. But I would say all foreign orders are handled manually. So we often ask them for some proof of ID. So they will have to send an ID to us and we will verify that it's correct. And usually our customers are within the Scandinavian countries. So we have, with CreditSafe, we can check a lot of information from them. But I would like to see some sort of like national EID, or that you could start verifying other countries' EIDs as a registrar. So I still see a flow in there that Bank ID is tightly connected to Sweden, but for us, it's helping a lot since most of our customers are Sweden-based.
Yes, we have one more question for you, Daniel, from Joel Martins. How can we scale that solution to other EU countries?
I think it's either that we get, like in the EU, that we have a Bank ID that works everywhere. I know that I think they're called Trust ID or something is trying to do that. But other is that the national IDs that we're using in each country, just like our passports or our driver license, are accepted in other countries, that we start accepting Bank ID in other countries and we start accepting other countries' way of verifying, as long as they follow the same rule set, I would say. So that's what I'm hoping for. Thank you very much, Daniel. I know we're getting some other questions from audience members. If we have time at the end of this panel, we'll dedicate some time to answering other questions. If not, then you can leave your email address and we will try to get back to you with the answers to those questions. Thanks very much, Daniel. So we've heard from some representatives of registries and registrars. We're going to widen the scope of the discussion now and bring in two voices from law enforcement and cybersecurity. We'll be able to share how they are cooperating with registries and registrars and the action they're taking against illicit domains. And the first of these is Bogdan Chiinaru. I hope I've got pronunciation right there. Bogdan is from Europol's Intellectual Property Crimes Coordinated Coalition, and I believe he's going to give us a general overview of Europol's activity in cracking down on illicit domains. He's also going to summarize the various aspects of Europol's cooperation with registrars and registries, strong and weak points alike. Welcome, Bogdan. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Good afternoon and good morning from the Netherlands, because I'm for us it is still the morning. I will share my screen. 1 second to see if I can do it now. Okay. I think you can see my screen because I'm connected remotely and I do not know if you can see me. I'm trying to, first, I would like to thank you for the invitation, and I'm pleased to present what we are doing. I will present the enforcement part, because up until now we discussed how we can get a more cleaner way of registering a domain, or to have a domain, and how we can get rid of the domains that are in general misleading the consumers, or are used for illegal activities, or activities that are not useful for in general for the consumers. And from Europol, I will present what we are doing. I will present about our team and how we are enforcing the activities. We are working very well. I need to start with EuroDIG. We are working since many years, and even now with Jordi, we have a good cooperation, and with his colleagues for enforcing this activity, because for us it is very difficult to work. There are a lot of domains, registries, registrars all over the world, which are abusing the European consumers, and also they are creating different crimes in our region. About us, we are part of European Financial and Economic Crime Center. We have a special team. That's why I'm not representing Europol Cybercrime Center. I'm from a different center that is dealing with infringing platforms, and we have a team inside of this European Financial and Economic Crime Center, which is dealing with counterfeiting and internet piracy. Our team is called the counterfeiting team, and here we are divided in several projects. We have a project that is dealing with online infringements, so whatever it is related to websites that are selling counterfeit goods, websites that are deceiving the consumers while they are thinking that they are buying genuine products, or they are buying luxury goods, but in general they are buying counterfeit products, and also websites that are sharing illicit pirated content. So here we can speak about torrent websites and other platforms that are offering for free different pirated content, including now we have a new trend. We have illegal pirated television streaming, which is the new trend. And this is our team. Together, because we are not only investigating the online part, we are also investigating the physical sale of counterfeit goods. We have also an office for analysis of activities that are related to counterfeiting, because we need to make different matches between different countries and different intelligence that we are receiving, and this is for the Office of Analysts. And together we are Intellectual Property Crime Coordinated Coalition. It is a team that is dealing with, together with our stakeholders. We have stakeholders from academia, from the private sector, and also from the law enforcement. We are working with all the agencies that are able to support us, like cyber customs agencies, cybercrime agencies from the national police, or economic crime agencies from the national police that can deal with this kind of crime. And our main objectives are to offer the operational and technical support for the member states. We are a team that can do this, and also we can support the competent authorities during their activities. We are trying to facilitate and coordinate the cross-border investigations, because nowadays the domains are not an entity that cannot be found only in one country. They can spread everywhere. They are very flexible, while for us it is very hard to investigate, and that's why we are here, the experts, in order to try to facilitate these investigations. We are trying to identify the new trends and the new activities that are emerging from these networks, and also we are working to raise awareness and to train the authorities to understand better how to investigate these infringing platforms, and also what we can do. And beside of this, also we are focused on the consumers. I will show you later, because by educating the consumers and making them to understand the risks, also for us, our work will be more easier in the future. And here I will present about our main operational activity. It's operation in our sites. It is a project that is it started about around 2012, and since then, so for about 11 years, we are working on it, and we are getting excellent results. the objective of this operation, it is to target websites that are selling counterfeit products and websites that are offering or sharing pirated content. Our goal is to take down as many websites as possible during 1 year. So we have the operation it's divided in 2 operational the 2 operational periods, and during these periods we are trying to take down as many illegal platforms, and also we are trying to investigate as much as possible the organized criminal networks behind. Because if you are taking down 1,000 websites and you are not taking down the criminal network, the websites will start to appear continuously. So you are doing like a work only to be done. Besides of this, we are trying to see, as I was telling you, to see what is going on behind, and afterwards to take down the criminal networks, not only the websites. And how it started operation our side, because now we are on the 13th edition. So after so many years, we are doing it. It's a recurrent one. It's yearly. We started as we had problems with the prioritization, because many years ago nobody was prioritizing websites, and nobody was taking care of what is going on the online market related to counterfeiting and the internet piracy. And we started to look on this, and we started to work as a priority at the national level. There are a lot of judicial and police cooperation issues at that moment, and we tried to enhance this cooperation and to make countries to contribute, because sometimes you can have a server, or you can have a registry or a registrar in one country and a registry in another country and an IP address in another country, and to investigate the criminal networks, because I told you this is our final goal. It is very hard sometimes. And also, it was to have the access to different administrative or civil tools, because some of the registrars or registries are more cooperant, while the others, for the others, we need more documents, and sometimes you need to have a court order. And what we managed to do, we managed to exchange the information very fast between the law enforcement authorities, and this helped us to build up synergies much more easier. We managed to investigate the criminal networks much more faster. We managed to engage the private sector capabilities through the law enforcement authorities and the countries that are working with us. And also we managed to prioritize these activities at the national level, because this is very important. And sometimes even if there are thousands of websites, if we are starting to investigate them, we are trying to identify the cluster, the main cluster. Afterwards, we can take down the criminal network. And here you can see how it is working. We are trying to share the intelligence between the law enforcement authorities. We are trying to find out what is going on and to take down the networks. Here the concept is more explained. It's a little bit, it looks complicated, but it is very simple, because we are working like a liaison network for the investigators, for the private sector between the investigators. And in the end, as you can see in the right, our final goal is to convict the criminals and to send them in the court, to facilitate this, because we are at Europol at this moment, we are only facilitating the cooperation between the law enforcement authorities. We are not operational, we are not making arrests, but we can help, we can support, and we can assist the law enforcement authorities in this activity. And as I told you, we are working with the private sector, we are working with law enforcement authorities, we are working with other European law enforcement agencies like EuroJust. Also, we are working several times, we are working with Olaf on different activities, because they are dealing with the customs authorities. We are working with other like European Intellectual Property Office from Alicante, which is dealing with the trademark registrations, because sometimes you need the intelligence to know that and to have the intelligence from their behalf to be sure that the website is infringing the intellectual property rights, which is inside of the mandate of my team. And here you can find some results from our last operation in our sites 13. The 13th edition, we had 21 suspects arrested. We managed to seize 5.4 million of counterfeit products. 12,000 websites were seized. We see several servers, online shops. Also, we managed to take them down and to investigate them. And also we issued 555 house search warrants together with the law enforcement authorities. So this was in the framework of operation our sites. And here you can see the results. When we started in 2012, we seized 133 websites, and afterwards the number started to grow, and it was growing even 2 years ago. We had the highest number of websites seized, but it was a high effort. So at this moment we cannot do it the same because you don't have the human resources. But in general, we are seizing between 12,000 to 30,000 websites in the last period of time, which is considering what we are doing, because also we are investigating behind. I think it is a number that it is a number which is correct. And beside of this, the private sector is doing its own enforcement by contacting directly the registries and registrars. And us, together with the law enforcement authorities, we are looking more to see who is behind the criminal networks. For the press releases, we are very well, because this is, I think, very important for the consumers. We are trying to educate the consumers, and we are trying to issue as many press releases. We are trying to cover our activities and to explain them that we are doing something, to explain them that sometimes they are buying products that are illegal, because nowadays also the criminals are trying to be more and more, so the criminal networks are not like before. They are very sophisticated. They are managing to reply or to reproduce all kinds of products. They are, for example, to give you about IPTV, they are creating networks that are similar, for example, with legal streaming services, and you cannot make any kind of difference. And you are thinking that you are buying a licensed product, while you are not buying, you are only buying pirated content. And together with the European Commission, with DigiTrade, we tried also to publish the latest counterfeit and piracy watch list. And here we presented the most notorious online markets and also other digital platforms that are enhancing piracy and counterfeiting, because this is also for the consumers' education. And here also we are using the Don't Fake Up campaign. That is an old campaign of Operation Our Sites. However, we are trying to update it all the time, and we are trying to explain to consumers that, look, this is a problem. Try to think twice when you are buying from an online platform. Try to see if you are buying a genuine product, because only to give you an example here, like fake sunglasses without any kind of ultraviolet protection, because also we need to explain them that what are the risks. So I think the best is for them to think twice. And this was my presentation. I need again to highlight the good cooperation with many registries and registrars that are very compliant with our activities. All the time, our activities are legal activities. So all the time we have a case open, or it is a clear infringement on the behalf of law enforcement authorities, and they are supporting us. And as well, I will kindly ask you, if you want, you can share my email address with all the participants. So if they want to contact us, they want to cooperate more and to work with us in the framework of Operation Our Sites, would be pleased to invite them on our next meeting, because we have one annual meeting. Our colleagues from EuroDIG, they are part of this conference, and we are talking about different approaches, different ways to overlap different gaps, also the liability on the behalf of registries and registrars, and to try to investigate what is going on behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. Do we have any questions for Bogdan from the audience?
Maybe I do have one. Thank you very much, Bogdan. I was wondering if, if you see like a bigger value of all the efforts, and they are like really extensive operational activities in this prevention, as you highlighted at the end, or in really finding the criminals, like yeah. Or is it like a mixed outcome of these activities, or where would you see like a more or better results?
No, for us, we have our goal. It is to work. We are looking everywhere, because we are part of the economic crime unit. So we are looking to seize the criminal assets. We discovered that if you are taking down or you are arresting some criminal entities, in the end, but this is based on several studies, they are coming back. They are having the money as they were before. And in the end, you are not. Everybody can stay at in an imprisonment for 3 years, 4 years, and afterwards they are returning to their luxury life. While now we are looking to seize the criminal assets. So this is our main goal. So their luxury properties or whatever they are buying by abusing. Here we are speaking about internet domains. That's why we are part of this economic crime and financial unit. While on the same side, we are trying to take down as many infringing websites. Sometimes you cannot investigate further; you are remaining blocked somewhere. And also, we are looking for different results on identifying the criminal networks. We are trying to identify the new trends. It is a complex process. So investigating websites, it is very complicated to us. We have also the issue of the new GDPR rule, which get us a lot of steps behind. But it doesn't matter. We are working further and we are moving further.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, then basically the both main activities of registries and registrars are useful to you, like identifying possible fraudulent registrations, which then gives you signals to follow up, and also if the registrars verify the users, then of course these users are less likely to be involved in these activities.
Here I can say, because this is we are investigators, so the same like me. I was a former investigator. We are working with many registrars and registries. They are providing us with in a case that we are investigating with a lot of useful information according to the law. However, as a police officers, because operation our sites is led by several police officers and customs officers, we have many techniques. So, but the cooperation with them, it is essential for us for supporting our efforts. So that's why we are having broad tools that I cannot share it, unfortunately, because it's like part of our investigative tools. But it's like we have a concept: together we are better. So as many registries and registrars that are working with us, they can help us to at least to have a clear internet and clean one.
And last practical question: did I understand correctly that you are fine if we share your address here in the chat, so that if there is somebody interested in cooperation, can contact you?
Yes, please. Yes. This is
okay. Thank you very much for this. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bogdan. We're beginning to run low on time, so I want to move on to our final panelist now. Our last panelist is Pablo Lopez Aguilar Beltran, who is Associate Director of the Internet Integrity Program at the Global Cyber Alliance. Pablo is going to talk about the importance of cross-entity collaboration in combating malicious online activity. And he's also going to introduce the Domain Trust Platform, which is a shared resource that provides stakeholders with actionable data on several forms of domain abuse used by cyber criminals around the world. Thanks for your patience, Pablo. We're listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. May I share my screen? I think that there's still, okay. Thank you so much.
So when you're ready, Pablo.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you already made the introduction. It's a big pleasure. Good morning from Barcelona. It's a big pleasure to be part here of this panel. As you said, I am part of the Internet Integrity program that is based in is from Global Cyber Alliance. I have to say that Global Cyber Alliance is a not-for-profit and neutral organization that aims at providing solutions and foster collaboration among all the players of the internet ecosystem. So as you know, internet is built upon a huge volume of different networks, each of them with its own procedures, policies, and processes. So at DCA, we do believe that there is a need to include all the players in the discussion on how to improve our cyber defenses. And because at the end of the day, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. So in summary, our moves are always around the following questions. Who needs to move? What can GCA do to help? And how can we make the relevant players move in the right direction? And here there are more questions. So for example, this is a project that we have been working on the last years. It's a shared platform that aims to support increased efforts by registrars and registries to reduce the number and impact of domains registered for criminally malicious purposes. So here are some numbers. We started on 2018. That means almost 4 years ago. It is a multi-stakeholder platform. So all the players can add the domains that they believe are malicious into this platform, and always we are aligned with the industry priorities. Currently, we have more than 10 million domains, malicious domains reported, unique malicious domains reported, provided by more than 40 different organizations. And just an interesting number here is that we have doubled over the course of the last year. Also, an interesting number here is that we have seen a weekly submission of around 90,000 malicious domains every week. This is probably the most interesting slide of the presentation. Here you can see the number of domains that have been reported as malicious. In this case, there are 9,000 domains that represent around 266 different registrars. And what is a bit, let's say, worrying is that the average time to take down the domains is around 200 days. So we argue that simply knowing that a domain has been reported as malicious is not sufficient to take action. Here you can see what are the criteria that we follow to categorize the domains. We have different, as I said before, different players that are providing malicious domains. So, for example, the law enforcement agencies, they have the highest level of reliability to report a domain. So when these law enforcement agencies they report a domain, they are considered as an A category on our platform. Then we have telco registries, customer review, and finally the last level of reliability is all the systems that work with artificial intelligence. We give numbers, as you can see also. -1 means that it's not taken down. +1, it is going to a blog list, it is going to take down. +2 means that it's probably a malicious domain. And +2, sorry, and +3 means that there is a suspicion that this domain is going to be fraudulent. What are the people that are involved in our platform? Here, as I said before, we have a large volume of different people, relevant players. I don't want to give numbers, but you can see registries, registrars, cyber analytics and researchers, search, LIAS, other platforms, and also players from the industry, financial institutions, of course, and ISPs and network operators. So if you want to be part of this platform and help us improve the way we fight against these malicious domains, just please contact us. You can contact the product manager of the platform, which is Dan Owen, or myself. Feel free to mail me every time that you deem convenient. So thank you very much for inviting me to the panel, and I do believe that all together we can improve the way we fight against cybercrime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Do we have any questions for Pablo? Any online questions? Pablo, regarding the length of time it takes to take down malicious domains, you pointed out in your graphic it's around 200 days. What steps can we take to bring this period down? It's quite a long time, isn't it? 200 days.
Yeah, this is a very good question. So the thing is that when I have conversation with CSIRTs and CERTs about the procedures that they use to take down the domains, it depends on the location of these registrars. So when a domain is based on the same country of the CERT, the procedures are pretty more or less straightforward. So that means that there's this component of trust between the different players that always allows to do things in a much more efficient way. So I would say that location is an important factor when you need to take down a domain. The trust component is also a very important and relevant factor. And also the kind of source that is reporting the malicious domain is something that needs to take into account. It's not the same thing to have, as I said before, an artificial intelligence provider who is using their algorithms to provide a malicious domain than a law enforcement agencies that they have their much more accurate criteria to say that a domain is malicious. So I would say these two things. Location is an important matter, and the source that is reporting the malicious domain is something that has to be considered.
Thank you very much, Pablo. So we've now heard from all 6 of our panelists, and we've got a good snapshot of the work being done by registrars, registries, and law enforcement, as well as the challenges they face and the ones that lie ahead. We're almost out of time. We've got about 9 minutes left. So I'd like to wrap this discussion up by returning to our panelists and asking them to sum up their thoughts in one sentence. What should our audience take away from this discussion? What are the biggest challenges to creating a trustworthy and secure online environment? And what can we do to answer those challenges? So
it's kind of difficult answering those questions in one sentence.
I know
think it's like an impossible task, but just from a center perspective, I would highlight conversation and cooperation, and to try and solve these problems collaboratively to end on a positive note.
That's your takeaway. Let's keep it focused on collaboration and cooperation. Jordi, what would be your takeaway from today's discussion?
Yeah, it goes more or less on the same direction. I think that the pieces of the puzzle are there. If we compare nowadays with, I don't know, 5 years ago, the landscape has changed completely. Now there are many more actors, people is cooperating. So I think that, yeah, as it was mentioned, cooperation and moving forward is maybe, it's the key. It's really what makes a difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordi. Jaromir, what would be your takeaway? What should the audience take away from this discussion? Where do we stand today?
So I think that we are in sort of like good times where the many tools are available that were not available a couple years ago. So let's take advantage of these tools, and we will hopefully move forward.
Thank you very much, Jaromir. Daniel, what would be your final thought for today?
I think, as we talked about cooperation, that we cooperate with trustworthy EID solutions within the EU, that we can align it on, and then maybe not focus that much on the sale, that the domain prices are maybe not the most important thing. It's rather that what we use the domain for and who is using it. So that's my takeaway here.
Thanks very much, Daniel. Bogdan, what would be your conclusion for today?
I think for me it is to build up the capacities by working together, all of us, and strengthening the cooperation, fostering the new ways of adapting to these illegal activities, and I think working together we are better.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. And Pablo, the last word goes to you.
I'm on the same line that the other presenters. I would say that trust is a key component to improve in an efficient way the way we fight against cybercrime. So I would say that we need to undertake actions to build this trust among the different players.
Thank you very much, Pablo. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for finding the time to be with us today at EuroDIG and sharing their perspective. It's been an illuminating discussion. I'm sure we could have talked about this all afternoon. Let's hope we can continue to rise to the challenges we face in the field so that Europeans can enjoy an internet that is safe for them to use and an internet they can trust. Thank you, everybody.
And maybe a very short concluding comment or call for action from me as well. So first of all, thanks a lot, Alistair, to taking over moderation of this diverse, but in the end, in topic, a coherent panel. I like this, what Jordi said, that there are these pieces of puzzle which need to be assembled. So I think this is a very important takeaway. And there are still a lot of open questions, which not only we at EuroDIG, but also the Dynamic Coalition on Data and Trust, we believe it's a good fora to discuss it, such as if the digital wallet will be the silver wallet, also to tackle Article 28 and also to have efficient measure or the issue with legal persons and their validation, or in general how to react in a more efficient way to fight fraudulent registrations. So I would just like to invite everybody here, or even those who were not able to join today, to continue this discussion. And we would be very much glad if you also join the Dynamic Coalition on Data and Trust. We have a mailing list which is maintained by EuroDIG, and you can join this group by sending me an email, and we will add you to the mailing list. So thank you very much. Thanks to panelists and the audience here as well.
Thank you, Regina. And just a reminder that if you've got any questions that we didn't manage to answer, then please let us have your email, and we will get back to you. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From
Bye
Tampere.
bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.